sort of starting the event.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Okay.
we are live.
We are
Dun,
live.
dun, dun.
Hello, Gillian.
Hello, my darling. How are you?
I'm very well. Very well.
Awesome.
So we've opened the webinar. So we're just waiting for a few people to come on into
For
the room.
sure.
Yeah.
We have a few people here already. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. So nice of you to take the time. Things are fairly hectic, we know, and we've made it nice and early, so there'll still be time for dinner and the rest of the evening.
Yes, and plenty of time to engage on LinkedIn. And I see you've been on LinkedIn today, which is fabulous.
Yes, and I think that with the people who are joining us tonight, we will just let you know that this is a preview of the workshop that we're doing, because Gillian and I, well, 4 years ago, Gillian, when we did a workshop together, and it took us some time to get back into the room with you guys, because we have had people asking. LinkedIn has changed so much, and it's time for us to rerun that workshop. So
I've got our notebook here, and it says 2015.
2015.
So and then the printed pages are 13th of May.
Right. So you can see that
pretty special.
A lot has happened on LinkedIn since then.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say a lot has happened on LinkedIn in the last 2 weeks.
Yes, it has. It has. I've been writing up notes for my mastermind course, which is informing everybody every 2 weeks about what's going on. And I've got at least 10 things to tell them. I think it's 10.
Ago.
Yeah, since last fortnight. Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. It is a moving feast, but some things are essential, and we're going to be talking about some of those. So I might kick off. We've got everybody still coming online, but it is recorded, guys, so you'll be able to get the link and re-listen if you've missed the beginning part. But we do want to get away on time and respect everybody else's time as well.
For sure.
So my co-host here, Gillian Bullock, the LinkedIn Ninja Down Under, and of course myself, Kathleen Ann, the Money and Marketing Mentor from Power Up Your Marketing. And with this upcoming workshop, we'll be spending the whole day, and it's a hands-on day. So part of the day and getting kicked off, we'll really be focusing on branding and choosing a niche, having a proper understanding about how you want to show up on social media, and in particular LinkedIn. So branding, when it comes to branding, I'm passionate about branding. It's something that I have been teaching and running for a very long time. And I know that the people who can get their head around the brand being so much more than a logo or a tagline really do understand how to show up and be themselves, which is the best thing that you can do. Don't you think, Gillian, if you're on social media, it's because platform.
Well, I know that you sort of started branding and personal branding and that sort of thing before it was a trendy term. So you may have called it something else 20 years ago. But your knowledge in this area goes way back. And a lot of people do think it's, a logo, and they're like, oh, I've got my company page on LinkedIn. That's cool. And, I've got a matching circle around my profile picture if they have done that. And they don't think about how much more comes into it. It's the language they're using, it's the content they're posting, it's the tone, and there's so much more to it. And it's so much deeper than the surface level of, oh, which pretty colors should I use on my logo? And that's about all I'll think about.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, until you've done that exploration and really you've got to dig in a little bit inside so that you really can express who you really are, because part of branding is you showing up, particularly if you are the one delivering your services. So you can't be Jekyll and Hyde. You can't be looking one way on social, and then when you turn up, that they think, who the hell are you? So the more important part of that is that if you bring yourself to your brand, you can take yourself everywhere you go.
Yeah, there's that whole conversation about authenticity, and I know that this was like a really big trend last year on LinkedIn about being authentic, and that was sort of the buzz thing. And a lot of people thought that that was just to be very, very revealing and like to tell their biggest, deepest, darkest secrets, which is why the Me Too campaign went off on LinkedIn. Like it really was huge. And, you know, how that gives you ROI for your business, I'm not really sure. But they sort of thought you had to strip yourself totally bare to be going along this lines of being authentic. And it's like, hang on, no, it's the real truth of authenticity, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the truth of authenticity is to actually go, okay, no, it's that, you know, you are one way on social media, and when somebody meets you, you're the same way. There's no surprises. So it's you just being yourself all the time. But if you don't really know how that looks and feels in a LinkedIn friendly way, then there's also a problem.
Yeah, and I think what happens, a lot of people, myself included, and yourself too, we came out of corporate. We used to have a job, and we had to be the brand for that particular company. So when we have our own company and we get to choose, we really have to establish what our values are, what is really important to us, because if we can't evidence that and walk our own talk, how can we possibly attract the people who will want to work with us? And if we attract the wrong people, they make it hard work. We actually repel people who are not able to see the value that we offer and work with us in a way that they truly get what we want them to receive. So it makes it so much easier. So one of the things about the branding too is it is who you are. It's also what you do and how you do that and who you do it for. All of that in context makes up the branding, and that's why it runs over into a niche.
Yes.
You know, if you're trying to serve everybody, you're not talking to anybody. And the language, and once again, Gillian, you know, if we need to translate once we've established what we want to get out in front of our audience, then we need to be able to put it in the platforms, especially in LinkedIn, where it's meant to be. Otherwise, it can be overlooked as well, and it absolutely must be consistent.
Yeah, so, and I'll go into that a little bit in, you know, maybe in the next 10 minutes or so. But there's just one question from George, which is kind of what you've just said. And he says he doesn't have a niche as such. He can sell to virtually anybody. So he's been told a lot, I'm sure. So it sounds to me like he's been told a lot. He got a niche, and he's going, can you help with that? Can this workshop help with that?
Absolutely. We will be talking, because we max people in our room will be 20, and that between Gillian and I, we will be able to go in one-on-one with you guys. Anything that you're stuck on, we'll be able to get you over, because on the day, this is a done in the day workshop. We don't want you going home trying to figure out stuff. We want you to leave with the job done. So if you're struggling with choosing a niche, and I always talk about inch wide, mile deep. So you want as narrow as you can get, but plenty of them. So, and the choice of a niche, you don't and can't really just pluck it out of the air, but I will be able to guide you through, at least wherever you are in your niche process, how to maybe narrow that more, or how to be more specific, so that when we get to putting the information into the LinkedIn profile with you, that is going to be found for those exact type of people that you want to find you. Does that make sense?
Yep. Well, it makes sense to me. Hope it makes sense to him.
Okay.
All right. So we're covering brand positioning in this webinar. And we're going to move on, I think, if we're ready to move on, to incorporating a brand into LinkedIn. So we've already discussed about, because I'm just looking down at some notes because I wanted to make sure that I covered what should be covered, I think. So we've talked about, you know, not just the logo, and also, you know, color and images and stuff like that. But there's also a side of looking at it being on brand. And I know that we've had this conversation, Kathleen, and you've informed me a lot about this area. So I'm probably speaking on your behalf a little bit here. But this is where we sort of, our skill set kind of merges anyway.
They do merge because, people need to know that you weren't always the LinkedIn ninja down under. You've been that for more than 10 years. But prior to that, you had a career in marketing, the same as I did.
Yeah.
So we bring all of that to the current, and of course it's all relevant. The principles of marketing don't change.
Not really, because people don't change. The platforms change, but the way in which we do stuff changes, but the essential way in which people buy doesn't change.
Exactly, and the platforms, and there are many, they come and go, and we're very clear about the value of LinkedIn.
Hopefully this one just stays for my sake.
Well, it's been around a long time, and it's very definitely moving with the times too. So I think that it's definitely here to stay for I hope, at least for my career time. But back to the fact that marketing and the principles don't change, and there are so many mediums to get your message out there. It needs to be consistent.
Yes.
And LinkedIn is a depository. What I love about LinkedIn is that you put your information in the areas that we're going to share with people in the right way, and it stays there. It's not going down the feed like Facebook and disappearing because they decide they don't want to share your stuff anymore or whatever else might be going on. You get to do your LinkedIn profile, and you can continue to do what you need to do, and you're in control far, far much more. Anyway, over to you, Jill.
Yes. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to sort of go over a little bit was, being on brand. There's also a level that people need to think about and work through on the day, is the tonality of your personality and your authenticity and that sort of thing. So, for instance, a lot of people are highly, highly informative on LinkedIn, but the problem is with their posts and that sort of thing, it's all conceptual. And so it makes sense to them, but people come with a problem and they want to read what you solve with that problem, not as a concept of how it can be applied. And so there is a level of information that can come out, but you can, edutainment, for example, if that's your type of style, and that's authentically you, then that's worth saying, okay, well, that's on brand for me to actually be educational, but also informative. But for other people, I don't know many lawyers, for example, that are into edutainment because also in that industry, there's compliance issues as well. Having said that, I do know a lawyer in New Zealand who is hilarious, but that's her. So, and there's also, you've also got to think about energy levels, because I have seen some brilliant content, but the person that's delivering it, I am struggling to stay awake. So there's also an interpretation of what you think you want to get across and what's actually getting across. So I'm going to address that in a section to do with LinkedIn video. And it's so easy to do. You do not have to get, somebody doing thousands and thousands of dollars for, there is a time and a place for good video content, absolutely, but that's your evergreen stuff. And you need to, if you're doing updates regularly and you're doing, like if you're doing a video daily because you want to do a video series, then that's simply not cost permissible to actually do, a professionally done video every single day. Unless, of course,
people who are doing video, the more that's becoming allowable, that you're, we all know that it's almost like FaceTiming people, isn't it?
Yeah, but okay, there's the new feature which is LinkedIn Live as well. I'm not sure if anybody on this webinar has seen any videos come through with LinkedIn Live. I was on one today, and I think they put it on by accident because it was like from a viewpoint at the side of the room, and it had a down sort of. Okay. And the room was empty, and there was all these comments going, what the heck is going on here? So there's a little bit of a mistake can happen on these things too. But for the main majority of users, we don't have LinkedIn Live yet. Us poor people, the plebs, including me here. I don't have it either. So
once again, it's coming, and
it is coming. It is coming, and we'll see.
Yeah,
and we'll see some people's careers going really, really well because they're thinking and they're on brand with their live. Other people are going to be walking through a university campus and they've just had a thought, so all of a sudden that goes into a LinkedIn Live. Yes, it's always good to see those. I've even seen karaoke, so that was awesome. Very, very informative.
We won't be doing that at our workshop.
No, but what I will do is, because there's only 20 people and we can get around to everybody, there is considerations that I have different techniques for people that are highly introverted as well, and then highly extroverted, because there's different ways of posting on LinkedIn and different mediums you can use that people are comfortable with. Because if somebody's really shy and horribly introverted and wants to die even at the thought of doing video, there's no way I'm going to push them to do it, because they might do one on the day and then they'll never do it again. No. So you want to do something that actually works with your personality as well.
Exactly, because that is part of being yourself. And
absolutely.
And I think that we might talk a little bit, Gillian, about some of the areas that we have available on LinkedIn, because as we know, if you don't put the right information and including the keywords in the areas that are part of the algorithms and are going to be picked up, then a lot of your stuff won't actually be helpful.
Yes.
And it won't be detected. So do you want to talk a little bit
about that? Well, that's your thing, isn't it? Like, you've got that, you can reiterate it for me, but it's something along the catch cry of, show up and be seen. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, show up and be yourself. Yeah.
Show up and be yourself. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, you want to be seen for the right things, but you also want to be found when people are actually looking for the same thing that you do. And
well, there's two ways. There's two ways of being found on LinkedIn. One is obviously somebody goes, "Oh, I've just met Kathleen Ann at this, networking thing. I'm going to type in her name direct." They could even Google your name, and that's something to consider as well, because when people Google you, usually in the top 5 results is your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
So because LinkedIn's so darn popular, I could go out on a limb and say top 3, but just to be on the safe side, I'll definitely say
out on a limb, because I think that's true.
You reckon?
I think it's right up there. It is right up there.
It is right up there. So what will happen, of course, is they'll recognize the URL and go, cool, let me go over and check out Kathleen. Or they've actually typed it in LinkedIn directly. But the other thing they could do is actually say, okay, I can't quite remember the name of this woman, or I'm looking for somebody new, so I'm going to look it up by keyword. So they'll look up, marketing expert or another similar term. So you've got to be optimized for a few key terms. And so it's, rather than guessing what people are looking for, we actually will go through how to research that, because I always like following the stats instead of following a hunch. Because when you follow a hunch, sometimes I'm really, really wrong.
And we're definitely doing that at the workshop, because we will help everybody understand how to really narrow down and nail in the sorts of words that they must put into their profile.
Yeah. And then I was actually adding up today how many areas. So I had a good answer for you. How many areas on LinkedIn actually need to be optimized so that you're pretty much on the top of the search results every single time. And there's actually 21 places.
21.
And
growing.
Possibly. But yeah, so there's 21 places that you need to.
I'm going to learn something on the day too, because I'm pretty sure that my 21 places aren't covered off as well as they need to be. Once again, this thing has changed just so rapidly and dramatically.
Yeah. Now, some of them may not be exactly relevant for everybody, because they may have no experience in that section. So, for instance, if we look at the awards section, some people haven't won awards. You've got them coming out of the wazoo, so that would be a good spot to optimize. But because you need to say what you won the award for. But if you've just put, small business winner for St. George area, then it's not optimized.
Yes.
There's a little takeaway
There's
tip.
a little takeaway. Okay. So,
Okay, so you need to actually say what you want it for.
yeah, I
So
think this tweaking, sometimes the information might already be there and only tweaking. Sometimes it's not there because it's not been thought of. And
yes,
there's so many things. And I know that, that there's just in our process, in our workshop, we are going to go step by step and cover
yeah,
all this off.
yep,
So
absolutely.
we'll absolutely make sure that everybody has the chance to, if not do everything on that time. You know, you might have awards you haven't even put up there yet, but you will definitely note them down as you get them up there, and the sort of things and words that you would want to use there.
Actually, I remember when we were at the workshop together, and we were doing it together on that day, and you hadn't put up anything to do with the Telstra Business Award nomination, and you had a trophy. Do you remember? And I was like, what do you mean you haven't taken a photo of the trophy and you haven't put it up there?
Yeah, precisely. And I've picked up a few more awards since then too. So
Yeah,
as you say, it's a constant thing that we need to put up, but it is more important that it's not just the image and that you've put it there, but the right keywords to be found for the very thing you got the award for, and not so much the award itself.
Yeah, but even when you've got all of your branding right, say, and we've got the profile done, okay, the next part of it is, of course, what you're actually posting and doing and saying and all that sort of thing around LinkedIn. And one of the things that I see a massive amount of people doing, which is a little takeaway tidbit for people to do, is that, for example, a lot of people post with external links. And I get it, right? I get that LinkedIn is, they're even curating content and saying, oh, you should, curate content to actually put it on LinkedIn. And here's some content suggestions, which are now on the company pages, and all sorts of things like that. But what they don't tell you is when you put these external links, you're taking people off LinkedIn. So they're going to demote the post. So they don't tell you that bit. They just say, oh, yeah, you should be curating content, and here's some suggestions. But by the way, since Microsoft bought it and they're trying to make their $26.2 billion back in advertising and sponsorship, anything that takes people off their platform that goes over, because their record is 28 minutes per session, so they sell advertising by saying people stay on for an average of 28 minutes. So if you're taking people off the platform, you're stopping halfway through the 28 minutes, and then you're certainly not increasing it for them. So it can be, a demotion. And in my experience, it's been as much as a 90% demotion of your post, which is pretty severe. Pretty severe. But I have 2 hacks around that.
I was going to say, I'm sure you do. I can hardly wait till the 12th of June to hear them.
Always, yeah. So there's 2 ways around that to still get out what you want to do, which is like putting people to your blog or something like that. But it's also bypassing the AI, what's it, artificial intelligence, to actually go, okay, cool. I'll play your game, LinkedIn, fine, but I still have my agenda. So
yeah, and absolutely, that's what we're there for. We definitely want to be able to maximize our presence there and our time, because it is valuable and it does take time to set this up. We do, but it's good to know what you're telling, because everybody puts those links on there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Share that, share the other.
Yep. We're sort of coming along to almost to the end of our time. Do you want to just put up the little offer, just in case people have got to go at 7 to put dinner on or something?
Yeah,
I don't know how to do it. You'll have to do that.
No, I will do that. I want to share too that we actually have some great bonuses. And when you go to this link that I'm going to send everybody to, you'll see we've got 5 bonuses, and they're worth almost as much as your investment to come to the workshop. But they really will add to your ability to cover off some of the critical things around what you want to present. And one of them is from Rosalind Holden, and it's a top-to-toe appraisal for, like, she's the
she's a stylist,
isn't she?
Consultant,
stylist, and for for anybody who wants to put their best foot forward, color and the way that you present yourself is essential. And that's normally $139. And she's actually gifting that to the people coming to our webinar, to our workshop, I beg your pardon. And and that'll be an in-person appraisal. So it's a fantastic session. I've done it myself, and I know the value of it. So I highly recommend that. That's fantastic. And Matt Vass is also giving us it's a downloadable what you should have in your image for
profile image,
profile image. And then also he's got a fantastic offer if you actually want to get your images taken, like his session, and it's 30% off his usual. So I think it's just like $295 and you can get up to 10 images, and he will do a fantastic job. He really is a great photographer and done some of my photographic work as well.
Okay.
So anyway, they're just a couple of them. So let's see if we can.
I think we've got more than that, don't we?
We do have more than that. We absolutely do have more than that.
I think we've got 5 bonuses.
Which is that?
I know my one's there.
I
got one there too.
You and I both got a bonus. I'm looking as to where this is.
I'll just read out this question while you're having a look for that.
Yeah, do that.
Hannah's asking, is LinkedIn, this is a question for me, good for B2C as well as B2B? The short answer is yes, it is. It is a longer road. So, and it's B2B is very quick. It can get very, very quick responses because you can be very direct. Whereas B2C, it's much harder to sort of find what you need. So you've got to fish for it a little bit more. So for an example, I had a gentleman in North Sydney who was, he did pool slides, which was like one of those, oh, really? I guess that's a thing, yes. And he wanted to find out people that were quite wealthy that had pools in the back of their houses. Now, we don't even fill in our age and our sex when we fill in a profile on LinkedIn. So whether you have a pool or not and whether you live in Vaucluse is not kind of really something we fill in. So what we spoke about was going, okay, so who are trying to sell, that could potentially sell pool slides for you? And we ended up finding he was connected to indirectly and through me, but between the two of us, we were connected to 110 pool builders. So you have to sort of think, so then he's like, oh my God, if I had 110 pool builders on my books, I wouldn't need to be on LinkedIn at all. And I was like, well, kind of essentially, it is. It's essentially that, LinkedIn is a tool. And if the tool works for you and you end up with 110 people and relationships on your books, then
referral partners,
then awesome. If you have that offline, then you don't need to be on LinkedIn to just keep going through the motions. But a lot of people need, but a lot of people need ongoing referrals. And they may, like, for instance, my business, quite often I won't see somebody for like a year and a half of like new leads. And a lot of people are like that. Sometimes, financial advisors and stuff like that, sometimes they don't see their clients for at least a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. So they sort of need leads all the time.
Okay, so let's give everybody the top of the early bird. Early bird, we've just launched this. This is tonight. This is the official launch. So you hop on there, grab your seat now, and you can take an extra $100 off using that LI100, and you can also get the early bird. And for the first 3 people who do sign up, and we'll see the sequence of who's jumped in and taken this up right now, then you will have the opportunity of 30 minutes with either Gillian or myself, one-on-one, doing a little bit more specifically for you after the workshop. So that'll be a follow-up process for you that I think you'll find invaluable. So if you want to be one of those 3, grab that now. And meanwhile, Gillian and I'll leave that up on the screen, and anybody who would like to jump in and do that. And
I forgot we did that.
Surprise! I'm talking away there, and I thought it was already on the screen for everybody.
Okay. Now it's not on. It is on the screen now.
It is on the screen now. So
okay, I'm still in the chat.
Jump in and grab that. So
Cool.
what
All
I
right.
wanted to talk about the
Oh, yeah.
day, Gillian.
Yes.
I think that to be clear for people, you'll be bringing your laptop. We'll have big monitors around the room so that you will real time and we'll do it secretly because there's a little ninja trick to turn everything off so nobody knows you're fiddling around. And we'll spend the day reworking your profile, given the sessions we'll have about, talking about branding and niching and all of those important elements, then how to get them up onto LinkedIn. All the Q&A stuff we'll have going along as well. And then real time doing exactly what Gillian and I will be instructing you to do. So hands up if you've got stuck on something, and one of us will jump over and give you a hand, and we will not leave anybody behind. You will be able to keep up. And the project for the day is to, at the end of the day, be able to flick your LinkedIn back on and have that whole new approach and everything set up, ready to rock and roll. So that's the outcome of being at the workshop. It is hands-on with total step-by-step governed with us.
But it does also, like that's probably only going to take us to maybe lunchtime, maybe a bit after lunchtime, because then the next part about it is like actual social selling and how to post and all that sort of thing. Because like I know that without a doubt, like there was a client, potential client, may become a client, on the phone with me this morning, and he was saying, just not getting any traction on LinkedIn and all that sort of thing. And so I looked at what his posts are, which were few and far between. By the way, it was 8 months ago, was his last post or something. So it's like funny that. But looking at it, there's like about 5 essential elements in a post, and all 5 were missing. So it was just pure text, very conceptual as well. So it wasn't really drawing me in to understand any more about what he did. But yeah, he was missing all 5 elements. So even if you've got your branding right, your profile's great, and you're putting content out, if you're not doing these LinkedIn friendly elements to really maximize, draw the right target audience into you, make sure the right connections are actually seeing your posts and that sort of thing, without all of those elements, it is sort of like shouting out at the, Melbourne Cricket Ground and hoping somebody there listens and somebody wants your stuff.
And somebody wants your stuff.
Yeah,
buy my stuff.
buy my stuff. That's it.
So
buy my stuff.
Yeah. But this will be then like a little template where people can rinse and repeat. This will be going forward how to do the things you need to do, and then of course your bonus that you're giving in part of this is actually a checklist.
A checklist, if they need it. Yep.
So that. Yep, and you'll have that.
Yeah, and it's not even something that they have to tick off each day, because once you've got a routine going, it's like, okay, well, maybe they need to tick it off each day to start with, but then it just become a habit. And when they're waiting for a train to pull in and they've got a spare 7 minutes until the train comes, it's like, okay, well, I'll go and do checklist point number 3 or whatever, because that gets me the most amount of traction. So it's just a little handy. The real part of the checklist is, a lot of people waste a lot of time on LinkedIn, and this is really people don't have time and they need to get to the right thing at the right time and just get it done. And so this is bypassing all the fiddle faddle stuff that you can get caught up in. So that's what the checklist is.
Just while everybody's having a look at the opportunity to the sign up page, Leah had a couple of questions, and she was asking, she was thanking us for starters, and asking us when is the workshop.
That's a good point,
Leah. We should have said that at the outset. It is on the web page that we've seen of June. And you'll see that it's at the Tradies at Caringbah.
What is that? That's a Wednesday. Yep.
It's a Wednesday, yeah. And we used it last time. And fully catered, you'll get breakfast. You'll get morning and afternoon tea and lunch.
And lunch, yeah.
And
I believe Matt and Roz are actually joining us for lunch, so that if people have some questions for their stuff, they can pick their brains as well.
Yeah. Precisely, and I
Yeah,
think that
but it's,
they'll add an element over the lunch break that will be really, really helpful, because they're, they sort of ask, and they're both
yeah.
a font of knowledge about their topic.
Mm.
So I can see, So Paul, Paul was asking, when is the workshop?
He's
Actually,
asking the
Ellie, I have another
12th of June.
and Paul said he couldn't hear the disc. Okay, Paul. So
What?
I hope that when you see now the offer's still up on the screen, and that offer will be showing that it's LI for LinkedIn 100.
Sorry, is it LI or BX? I thought it was BX.
We have a code for our BX mates.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That either one will work.
Okay.
Gillian and I are in the BX networking group, so people may know us through them, but other people who don't. So you're welcome to use either. Yeah, that is where we met, and that was I don't know, 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, probably. Before it was BX.
Yeah. So yes, absolutely before it was BX. Anyway, so I hope that's all been helpful. I'm looking if anyone else has got another question just before we let you all go.
I've just got a few tidbits. If their questions are coming in, I've got a few tidbits that I could just sort of add to it, because we were going to cover the undervalued power of LinkedIn in this webinar too. So I just want to make sure that we tick off what we promised we would. And I was listening to an interview with the managing director of LinkedIn in Sydney. I don't know why they call him a managing director, but he's head dude in Sydney of LinkedIn. And he was saying, which I've already seen the stats, but there's 10 million people in Australia on LinkedIn, but it's actually only 12 million people in the full-time workforce permanent workforce. So that's either full-time or part-time workforce. There's only 12 million in Australia. So I was like, wow, that's a lot on LinkedIn then, that workforce. And I do know for a fact that like retail is one of the sectors that hardly use LinkedIn at all, because they go to Seek for their jobs and stuff like that, which perfectly understandable. So that's certainly not hiding out. That's a big potential market to use LinkedIn. And also there was a stat that I wanted to share with people for B2B. 80% of people are saying that their leads come through 80% of the time from LinkedIn. Only 13% of the time through Twitter, and 7% of the time through Facebook. And if there's any Facebook lovers on this, they might go, cool. But I mean,
B2B.
Yeah, B2B, exactly. B2B. We're not saying B2C. So that's kind of cool. And of course, it is the largest B2B social media platform in the world. So some people want to be across all the platforms. They're like, oh, I've got to be on Instagram, and I've got to be on Twitter, and I've got to be on this, and I've got to be on that. Even, Snapchat and Periscope come into it and all sorts of things. And I think the thing is, if you are in a B2B space, you have to have LinkedIn as your number one. You just have to. Dabble with the rest or whatever, or just choose two is my advice. But I think a non-negotiable is LinkedIn. I know. A non-negotiable is LinkedIn if you're in B2B.
Yeah. And when we're meeting up out networking, first thing we do is link up with people on LinkedIn, and then maybe we go to Facebook as well. LinkedIn, of course, sometimes when we're in a live little way, that LinkedIn lets us link on to people who are in our space, so we can. Oh,
the Find Nearby feature.
Find Nearby feature.
Yep. And there's a QR code now too. Have you seen the QR code?
I have.
Yeah.
Tell everyone about that.
The QR
feature. The feature of the near me.
The Find Nearby. Okay, so the Find Nearby it only works if you've got Bluetooth, and it only works if it's kind of been announced by one person to all go on there together. So if you go into a networking event and you put on your Find Nearby and nobody else is doing it, you'll be in an empty room, even though there's like 60 people standing around you. So it sort of has to be done by the facilitator. But all you need to do is just put on your Find Nearby, and then all of a sudden there's just all these people coming into your feed, and it gives you a little icon. It gives you the photo, their headline, and then an icon of what your status is with them. So if you're first connections, it'll have the little envelope for messaging them. If you're not connected at all, it'll have the little sort of outline of a person with a plus, so that you know you can connect with those people. Of course, you can't personalize the connection request, but you know, there's always a downside to things.
Everyone gets the gist of it, and you and I were at your LinkedIn local.
Yeah, just last night. Yeah, and I actually
doing exactly that.
I actually recorded my screen while it was doing it, because we had that videographer there, and I was like, oh, I might pass this on to them so they can plug it into whatever they do with the video.
They do with the video.
Yeah. So the QR code is really cool as well. So the QR code is basically you switch it on your phone, and you can it either comes up with the QR code, or you switch it over and it's to take a photo of somebody else's. But what I find it's really, really handy for is when you've got somebody who has the longest name from Timbuktu, and you can't possibly stand there and go, now, who are you? Where are you? And you're going, okay, so sorry. The letters again are, there's 24 just in your first name. So the QR code, you just put it over their one, take a photograph of it, bang, you've got their profile. The other one that it's really handy for is when it's like John Smith, and there's 100,000 John Smiths. So it's either a really complex name or a really common name. The QR code sort of bypasses all that. So that's really cool too.
And all of it speed and correctness, you don't end up with mistypes and all sorts of stuff. Look, we could talk for hours, but we don't have hours.
Okay. Well, we'll talk on the 12th then.
We will talk on the 12th. It will be a replay, and we will be able to share that out. So for those of you who are on the call and have been able to stay the distance here, and I can see some people, thank you, and thank you for joining us. It's been lovely, and we really will have fun on the day. Let's say that it will be probably one of the most enjoyable workshops. It won't be boring, and it will be full of outcomes and accomplishment, and I think you'll feel really good at the end of the day.
Okay. I hope so.
Good night to you.
Was that done? Oh, it's bye from you. Okay, and it's bye from her. And it's bye from me. I've caught on now. You just, yep, it's all right.
Good.
Bye, everybody.